me a small fiefdom.
That's right, that's right.
Just have fun.
Hey, Rebecca,
Do whatever.
you don't have an extra, do you? If you don't, that's
What am
okay.
I gonna do with you?
I didn't get a chance to go home. I've been up there. Thank you, my dear.
Will the Des Moines Park and Recreation Board meeting for April 22nd please come to order? Rebecca, would you please call the roll?
Nolan,
Here?
Club,
Here.
Bacto,
Here.
Keeney Vanderhaar,
Here.
Davis,
Present.
Pasick,
Here.
Yanza. Here. Thornton,
Here.
Rogers,
Here.
Boson.
Here.
Good, we have a quorum, thank you. Let's take a quick look at the agenda for the evening. Since we have a guest speaker this evening, I'd like to change the order of the agenda a little bit, if that's agreeable with you. I'd like to move to receive and file so that our guest speaker could begin the evening. Do I have a motion for that?
So motion.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Let's take a look at the minutes from the meeting of March 25th. Are there any additions or corrections to the minutes? Hearing none, may I have a motion for approval?
I'll move approval.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. We'll move on to receive and file, and we're very excited to have Jeff Fleming, the director of the Des Moines Art Center, with us this evening to tell us about some new developments at the Art Center, ongoing things.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here and a pleasure to update you on various projects that the Art Center is involved with in connection with the city. And the first one would be the Papa John Sculpture Park. And we have a new work in the park. It is Olafur Eliasson's Panoramic Awareness Pavilion. And it actually officially opens to the public on May 1st at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. So please do come. The artist will be in town and he will be speaking there. This is a circle of colored glass. It is 9 feet high and 30 feet in diameter. It has one opening and it has a lantern in the center. The artist sees this really as a beaconing light, a lighthouse, if you would. He sees the sculpture park as an ocean with waves, and this will help the viewer navigate that space. So it's very poetic, it's very simple, but yet very beautiful, and of course it's interactive as well. And this image I took just today at midday. The walkway around the work, which allows everyone to enter inside, as well as the sod, has been laid. So it is now officially done, and we'll have that wonderful opening ceremony. So please do attend. And just another update, the two Gary Hume sculptures, Back of Snowman White and Back of Snowman Black, we are going to be repainting them in the next few weeks, so you'll see a tent over them for a couple of days as they're repainted. It's just a part of the ongoing maintenance of the sculpture in the park. But I particularly wanted to share with you updates on the new, or the Mary Miss project. We have been working with the city for the last several years on developing a plan to renovate and reconstruct this work. And we have hired Confluence, which is the local landscape architect company, to do a review and examination of the site and propose avenues for its reconstruction. Through that efforts, we have highlighted 7 priorities. And these are a listing of those priorities. You can see number 1 is at the center on the bottom left, and that is the valve that controls the water flow in and out of the pond, or at least out of the pond. That priority has been fixed. You will see number 2 and number 3 to the north. Those 2 walkways were removed last year for safety reasons. Obviously, time, weather, and vandalism is taking its toll on the work, and we are currently in the process, just today, of replacing 2 and 3. We have raised $200,000 to date for an estimated project cost of $500,000. And that $200,000 will certainly take care of 2 and 3, and then will help us on the way to 4 and 5, which is the larger boardwalk that spans the southern area. We also have, right now, we are one of 5 projects selected for further consideration by the Community Foundation for a Leadership Award, and that's in the amount of $150,000, so I hope we are successful with that. We also have a grant into IMLS, which is the Institute of Library and Museum Services, a branch of, or a department of the federal government for support, and that grant is in the amount of $77,000. So both of those will certainly lead us toward the direction of the completion. And we are also working with the Founders Garden Club and keeping them abreast of our activities, and hopes that we can also work with them in terms of some fundraising. So obviously you're aware that the city is also working on the landscape around the park in terms of erosion control and water quality, and to that end they've done a great deal of work surrounding it, and they have also drained the pond, which allows us to be able to work on 2 and 3, and of course allows them to continue their work on water quality and the landscape quality. So as new funds become available to us, we will simply go around the pond and tackle each priority as we were able to do so. So I'm happy to address any questions that you might have, and I certainly appreciate our wonderful partnership with the city on all of these projects that we are engaged in.
What time is the opening on May 1st?
It really starts at 4:15, but the artist will speak at 5.
Okay.
May 1st. Please be there.
And if you haven't had a chance to really get out and see the Panoramic Awareness Pavilion, don't just drive by it. Get out and walk around and walk into it, because it's a really magical piece. It does lots of illusioning things that I think you'll be very surprised by, so do take a look at it. Are there any other questions for Jeff? Very exciting progress moving forward.
Great. Thank you so
Jeff.
much.
Just a comment on behalf of staff. Again, thank Jeff for his great partnership and collaboration with us. He does just a tremendous job of keeping us in the loop and communicating, meeting us whenever we call him. Matter of fact, to be out and look at the site. So as you drive by the park this summer, we're doing some work at that pond. And I want you to notice that we have lowered the water levels for the reasons of their repairs. But one thing we're investigating right now with no real answer yet is to lower it all the way is a potential. We do have some funds, not enough, but about 50% of the funds needed to potentially dredge, which is the next step. As you know, we've fixed the basins that are on the hillsides that collect the water. We can get in and clean those out. Next would be dredging this pond. So we're having conversations with the DNR, eventually the neighborhood and the founders to talk about how we find that next half of the funds to do that. And that would pretty much conclude all of our work in the park on that water quality restoration. So if you drive by, the water's low, there's a reason for it.
How much is it going to cost?
Right now, we don't have great engineering numbers, but we do have significant funds. We have an account for urban conservation projects. That account has $100,000 in it right now. The DNR does have programs that, if funded through the state budget process this year, that would meet the same criteria to match. So I think we look good as an application, but again, it's too early to tell.
You're going to drain it completely?
We might do one of two things. Drain it completely just to see how much sedimentation's in there, to give the engineers a better idea so they can do better estimates. Again, we need to work with the neighborhood and the public to make sure they all understand. Or we might just keep it down to a level where Jeff and his team can work on the restoration of the Mary Myth structure.
Could we let me know? I got a couple radio-controlled sailboats in the bottom of that thing.
Well, we've already found some things at the bottom of that lake that we're not really looking to find again,
Okay.
so. Yeah, but if we find your radio-controlled boats, we will return them.
A brand-new book is just out on art parks, and the Art Center and the Papa John's Sculpture Park are very beautifully mentioned. Sculpture Park, but it does start with the Mary Miss Project as one of the lead-ins to the sculpture parks in Des Moines. So,
Great, thank you so much.
thank you, Jeff.
I'm sorry, can we ask questions of him? Or is that for?
Sure.
You got to come up to the podium.
microphone, please.
Give your name and address.
Cheryl Drawley in Urbandale, Iowa. My question was, last year there was kind of an issue at Greenwood Park with the algae on the water. So do we, by draining it and possibly dredging it, is there kind of an idea there that'll take care of that too?
Sure, our next presentation will kind of highlight some of our work in that area here. Just happens to be on the agenda right after this, but yes, that's been part of a larger effort. The pond is getting a lot of algae for a lot of reasons. One, it's not enough air-water mixture because the sedimentation is built up over all these years. We had some repairs to make on what we call catch basins up on the hillsides. So the repairs are in progress, 2 out of the 3 larger repairs, there's others. We've also begun a public information process to educate the neighbors about using fertilizers and what things happen, what things run off into the park to help add to the problem of the green water. So yeah, we are very aware of that. We want to fix that, repair that, and as money becomes available, we're going to knock those things off and hopefully get back to what we used to have and not just green water. So,
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Richard, did I do okay on that? Is that okay? All right, good. So next we have Richard, if there's none. Come on. One of the things as Richard's making his way up to the podium is our commitment to natural resource efforts.
Do we need to receive and file this first? Jeff's first too?
Probably
Sure,
should.
sure.
This is Richard speaking about the next project?
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
Why don't we, do I have a motion to receive and file both B and C for Jeff's remarks? So moved. A second?
Second.
All those in favor? Thank you.
So as now Richard's here at the podium, one of the things our department is committed to over the last several years is more of a natural resource management of the land. To say it in a much layman terms would be is that if you think of parks and recreation, the way you maintain parks in the 80s and 90s was a lot of turf grass, a lot of fertilization, sports facilities. And as you move forward, it's not just a trend, it's a movement that has to happen to help maintain these parks for future generations, is to restore the landscape. And sustainability is a term that we use a lot in the city, not just for the budget purposes, but also for the land management. So this year we've given Richard a kind of a temporary title. He's our new natural resource superintendent as an interim basis. We've carved out people that used to work, nothing new and nothing added to the budget, but that used to work for general parks maintenance, and we've given them to Richard because he showed us a plan that we believe in that will work. And we're going to measure the plan this year. So I wanted you to see the plans. I think it's very interesting.
Chair Nolan, members of the Park and Recreation Board, Richard Brown, Park Planner 3. Like Ben just talked about, we have taken a lot of the information that we got from Dr. Rosberg's natural resource inventory of our park and open space land and turned that into a work plan and how we're really going to attack that. He gave us data and maps and information that is equivalent to over 1,000 pages of information that we have to digest and figure out how we can better manage our park and open space system. So what we've done is tried to do the first step of that and put together a series of goals that we wanted to try to accomplish with our natural resources this year. And so really we have the overall goal of we want to create more resilient landscapes, ones that help to improve our water quality, one that reduces our invasive species, reduces our maintenance costs, and finally provides passive recreation. That's our walking, our hiking, areas that you can get off the beaten path, out of the mowed spaces, kind of into nature and see what great landscapes we have here. Also looking at those from a historic standpoint, and a lot of these landscapes have been preserved since the early 1900s or the late 1890s. Are there ways that we can restore certain important ones and kind of pick and choose from those? And finally, do things like this, educate our elected and appointed officials and park users and anyone that might be out in our parks or be interested in our park system. First thing we did is we were able to put together a natural resource team. This is the team that works on our projects on a daily basis. Like Ben said, I'm currently filling in an interim position as a natural resource superintendent. We have 2 park maintenance workers. Those are full-time employees that are focused year-round on natural resources. 2 7-month park technicians that start from April and go through November 1st and work on natural resources. And then this year we have 10 120-day utility workers that will be working. This is essentially summer help from May to August that'll help us on natural resource projects. This is more than we would have on a typical year. We've been able to leverage some of our existing funds through some operating budgets as well as some grants that we have to actually hire additional staff that we wouldn't in a normal year. So we're pretty fortunate this year that we have additional staff to kind of get up to speed on some of these projects. Additionally, too, it would be very appropriate to mention that just because these 14 people, 15 people work on natural resources, that doesn't mean no one else throughout our department does. We have a very skilled burn team. All 12 of our park maintenance workers, supervisors, all are trained in prescribed burns and do that on a daily basis in the fall and in the spring. We also have our heavy equipment crews that work with us to do woodland restoration through using of heavy equipment to haul away stuff. So it's really a team effort, not beyond just these 14 people that will be working on natural resources. So what we did, we broke it down first from a policy and planning work standpoint. We had all this data from the natural resource inventory. We had to start to digest that, figure out how we could use it, and start to prioritize that work. One of the first things we saw is we need to start looking at restoration plans and finding out how we're going to tackle these areas, how we're going to actually go about restoring them. One of the first ones we did was actually for Grandview Park. We had a request from the neighborhood out there to improve the woodland out there. And we realized before we could actually start the work, we needed to do some planning work, kind of get our goals and our guidelines on how we're going to attack that. So what we're able to do is work through that and work through our Urban Conservation Advisory Committee as well as staff to put together a series of woodland restoration guidelines. I have a copy of it here. I'm going to go ahead and pass it around so you can kind of see what type of effort went into that. Essentially, we put together our guidelines, what we're going to do, what we're going to accomplish, and then we also take all the information from Dr. Rosberg, all the plant species he found out there, all the landscapes, different landscapes, and put that all together into one book. And this is our guiding document as we're working in that. We will work on that and do that for additional projects as we go down the road and then we tackle different restoration areas. Also, too, we need to look at our land management policy and develop some different policies such as what's an appropriate location to plant different species of trees. We want to make sure we get them ecologically in a very sound location. We need to look at ways to manage these woodlands from a standpoint of wildlife as well. A lot of times in a mowed park area, we just take out a dead tree. But is that the right policy we need to have for a woodland area or a savanna area or a forest? Does it make sense to leave a certain number of these dead trees down on the ground or standing up in the air as long as they don't impact recreation out there to provide habitat for birds and animals to nest and hide in them? So we're really looking at a lot of different ways that we can manage from wildlife to recreation to even just how we manage those landscapes on a daily basis. Then, looking at actual physical land restoration, we have targeted these 5 parks for restoration this year. Grandview Park, we're looking at approximately 27 acres. Greenwood Park, 30 acres. McRae Park, 35 acres. Prospect Park, 12 acres. And approximately 70 acres at Ewing Park that between January of this year and at the end of this year we'll be targeting for restoration in some manner. That could be as simple as removing invasive species like honeysuckle out of there. It could be spot spraying small areas for other different invasive species. But throughout these areas here, we're going to be working to improve and restore these lands. Just to give you an example of some of the work that we've been doing, this is a picture of Grandview Park before we start any restoration effort. I would challenge you to see that there are actually some very, very large oak trees hidden in that area there. As you can see, there's a lot of scrubbed in stuff. Even without leaves on the trees, it's very hard to see what's going on here. Through the efforts of our staff, what they've been able to do is actually cut down and clear out some of the second growth trees that are shading out the oaks, get rid of some of the invasive species, and this is what we were left with when they're done. Now you can start to see where these oak trees have been here for a very long time. We estimate many of them are over 200 years old and were here when the city was settled and when this area was planned and purchased for a park. So what we'll do now is we'll kind of monitor these areas over the next several years to see how the ground layer starts to regenerate, see what type of invasive species or other things start to come in there. But it's a process that this is really the first phase, and we're excited that we're finally starting to make some progress on these projects. Another piece of our land restoration efforts is actually what we call a forestry mower. This isn't our actual forestry mower, but I wanted to give you an idea of what it looked like. Essentially, it's a gigantic brush hog. It's about 7 feet across, and what that does is it'll go into our woodland areas and essentially mow down a lot of the invasive woody species. The biggest one we have an issue with is honeysuckle. It takes over lots and lots of our woodlands, and so this is a very good tool for us to get a good handle on it and start to get the upper hand. So we turn this loose out at Ewing Park this winter and into the early spring here, and this is an area out on the east side of Indianola Avenue and north of Easter Lake Drive that before this photo was taken that you could not see any of that area out there below 10 feet on the ground, and it was completely choked out by honeysuckle. They were able to take that forestry mower through there and really improve the area, and we're excited to see what starts to come up on the ground layer this summer. There'll be a lot more flowers and other grasses growing out there, and it'll make it even easier to burn and combat those invasive species in the future.
So up until this year, we did that all by hand. And as we've reduced our staff, we've had to become a little bit smarter in how we've been able to tackle this, and we've convinced the fleet department that this is a good investment.
And for example, that really relates to why we can look at almost 70 acres of land restoration out at Ewing Park versus looking at 12 acres at Prospect Park, because we can move a lot faster and we can tackle these. It's not the be-all, end-all, but it certainly does help to make a dent. It helps safety of our employees and really helps us push this forward. Beyond that, we're also looking at construction projects throughout the park system that relate to natural resources. We're looking at nature trails in Grandview Park, Ewing Park, and McRae Park. Like Jeff and Ben talked before, improvements to Mary Miss and access to that pond, as well as potentially dredging the pond if we have enough money at the end of the year. Beyond that, we're looking at rain gardens, all 3 parking lots in Ewing Park that feed right into Yater Creek. A rain garden is really an opportunity for us to take rain that's fallen on impervious surface and filter out pollutants or slow down the amount of water before it hits a creek. And it is a really nice opportunity for us to show off what native plants can do and at the same time help improve the water quality in Yater Creek. We're also looking at and working with our stormwater department to do some stream stabilization in some of the tributaries that feed into Yater Creek through Ewing Park. So we'll see probably both those projects move forward this summer. Just a little bit more information about the nature trails. Here at Grandview Park, on the left-hand side is Easton Boulevard, on the bottom is East 33rd. We're planning to do about a 2-mile accessible nature trail through Ewing Park. This is one that will be 5 feet wide. It'll have slopes of less than 5%, compacted dirt surface, and 4 bridges through here. So it'll be a little bit different than the trails I'm going to talk about next at Ewing, because it'll have those flat slopes that allow anyone in a wheelchair or other physical disabilities to get out there, to get into nature and see some of these beautiful landscapes that we have in our park system. We're very excited about this. We expect that it'll probably open sometime midsummer. We're using our staff as well as a grant from the Wellmark Foundation and the Friends of Des Moines Parks to complete the construction of this. Ewing Park Nature Trails, actually this is a very good segue to what will be the CETA Award later. We've worked with the Central Iowa Trail Association now for the last 4 years to put together a nature trail system out at Ewing Park. Out at Greenwood Park and Ashworth Park for a lot of years, there's been a very popular series of dirt trails out there that's been kind of beloved by the mountain bikers, by the walkers, by the hikers, you name it. It's been a really neat opportunity to get people off the paved environment and into our woods. A few years ago, we were approached by them and said they wanted to expand the amount of trails in the city, and so they said Ewing would be the perfect spot for that. For the past 3 to 4 years, we worked with them on fund development and getting grants and getting planning done, and the result is that we now have a 5-mile trail system out there that will probably be finished up in the next couple days that will really encourage a lot of different uses out there, from mountain biking to walking to hiking, and I'd really encourage you to try to get out there. I can't say this enough because they're sitting here, but this system wouldn't exist without volunteers, from fundraising to volunteering their time to actually do the physical construction out there. This system wouldn't exist without them. And we've actually been very fortunate to work with the Wellmark Foundation again, as well as the Friends of Des Moines Parks, and they were able to secure a $5,000 Prairie Meadows grant. So a lot of partnerships put together and coordinated by them that has really made this a possibility. And so I'd encourage you to get out here this summer and check out these trails because they're pretty phenomenal.
Are those walking and bike, you said?
Yep. Yeah, here's an example, just kind of show you what a trail that was just cut the other day out there. They're essentially 18 to 24 inches. They'll probably narrow down as vegetation starts to grow in again, but it's a compacted dirt surface that allows you to walk and hike or ride your bike out there, and either one provides a great environment to do that. Beyond that, we're starting to look at prairie reconstructions. We've had a prairie out at Glendale Cemetery for a number of years, but under the management out there of Marlene, she's cleaned up some areas at the very far north end of the cemetery that used to be held for dirt and some other asphalt millings. We actually reseeded that into a prairie over the winter last year, so we'll expand that 2-acre prairie to probably double the size of it. McHenry Park, we planted a prairie out there with the reconstruction of the trail and the park out there a couple years ago. We're expanding in a few locations, and we're doing maintenance on existing areas that didn't do so well at the first time. And then we're reseeding an 8-acre prairie out at Sargent Park as well. So we're working on some of these prairie reconstructions to bring nature into some of these areas in our parks. Also, we're looking at actually establishing native landscapes at a few of our locations. The Ding Darling Shelter House was renovated last year, so this summer we're going to be looking at doing native plants around the patio area in the front of it to provide an area for some flowers and kind of a nice area to sit and eat lunch while you're renting the shelter. At McHenry Park, we did a new spray ground there a couple years ago. We're going to be planting the rain garden and creating a small prairie around the edges of it. Good Park, we also completed a spray ground last year. We're going to be planting that rain garden there. Sargent Natural Playscape, or we're going to be looking at establishing some native plant areas there that kind of blends with the natural themes of that playscape. And then finally, we're going to be looking at doing some filter strips and rain garden off of the trailhead and parking lot at Ashworth Pool, which is the very beginning of the Bill Riley Trail. Along that lines, one of the things we've always talked about was, can we actually take seeds and start to grow these in our greenhouses? The park board's very aware that for a lot of years, Julie, under her leadership, and the volunteers and the staff she has out there has grown millions of annuals out there. And so one of the things that her and her staff did this year, working with some of the natural resource staff, was actually take some seeds that have been given to us from Polk County, purchased a few more online from a seed place we work with, and actually started to grow some native plants that we can plant in our parks this summer. And so from a very first standpoint, these are actually the plants that got taken out of the greenhouse the other day, and will be growing a little bit longer, and then we'll start planting these in a few of those landscape areas that we talked about before. If this works well, we'll continue to work with Julie and her staff to make sure that we can do more and more of that, because it's a really great opportunity for us to take some of the seeds and grow them into plants that originate in our park system. We're not just doing new things as well. We have a lot of existing landscapes out there that we've been working on, projects that we've developed over the years. We have rain gardens in more than a half a dozen parks. Those always require a little bit of prep in the spring to get rid of the old growth, doing any sort of weeding that we might have, and infill planting that we might have. Also, we're working on the Meredith Trail. There's a series of beds along there that stretches from Southwest 9th Street all the way into Great Neck Park. Always working on maintenance there to ensure that those look the best. We're going to try a few changes out there to see if we can bring some of that pop and the color back that we've seen a couple of years in the past. We have a number of prairie areas and landscape beds at Grays Lake that always need a little bit of attention. Invasive species removal, just about everywhere we go in our park system, we have an invasive species issue that we need to deal with. So we're selecting certain areas that we can get under control and tackling them as we can get them. It's always it's a constant battle to try to stay ahead of that. And like I talked about a little bit earlier, we're working on prairie reconstructions that have been planted in the past, but we need to just make sure that they continue to develop and look as good as possible. One of the things we always see here is that we have a 200,000 eyes out there, actually say 400,000 eyes out there that are always checking out what we do. And so we want to make sure that these landscapes within a city look as good as possible and really represent what we're trying to do here. Beyond that, prescribed fire is one of the best tools we have to maintain these landscapes once we get started with the restoration process. These are all the areas that we burned this year. We actually believe, depending on weather, we might try to burn a couple more areas. One out at Glendale Cemetery, we might try to burn that prairie there, as well as burn a prairie we have out at Ewing Park. It's really going to depend, but our burn window is closing rapidly for this year. So far we've burned about 35 acres of our park and open space system and through these different park and open space areas. And we have a really dedicated team that works very, very hard to ensure the highest levels of safety they go out of their way to make sure that they do appropriate and prescribed burns allowed in the weather conditions, and they're probably the finest team out there, and so we're really excited to have all those people working on prescribed fire for us. Also part of this is public education. Along with all these projects, we need to tell the public what we're up to, because if we don't, Ben gets a lot of questions and we get a lot of questions, and with limited staff, it's best to hit those issues head front and tell people what we're doing out there. For example, out at Greenwood Park, when we rebuilt detention basins, cut down trees to provide those detention basins, we got one phone call in the entire construction season, and we really believe that's because we put signs out telling people what we did ahead of time, and it really just provided them that little bit of information that they wanted to know what's going on and why we were doing it. So we're going to continue to do that throughout our park system. We're going to target these 5 areas through specific projects or different things that's going on. The sign on the right-hand side there is an example of what we're doing. For several years, we've tried to put together some areas that we no longer need to mow. But one of the things we did is we just stopped mowing them, and we'd often get a lot of questions. So we're trying a new tactic this year. We're going to stop mowing some of these areas, but we're also putting these signs out to try to describe what we're doing and why we're trying to accomplish it. So we'll see if something like this is successful this year, but I have a pretty good feeling that it's really going to be a successful way to tell people what we're up to in a very few bullet points. Also, too, we're not just looking at people, we're also trying to look at how the park and open space system can provide wildlife habitat. We're all very, very aware of lots and lots of mosquitoes in a lot of our parks, which is, a natural phenomenon, but we always get a lot of complaints about it, and the city does a lot of spraying. One of the things our staff came up with this year and met with the DNR and a few other people is, could we really look at putting in some bat boxes, maybe try to attract and create some colonies in our bats that could eat those mosquitoes and maybe try to reduce those populations? So they, over the winter, worked to put together 8 different bat houses that they put in 4 different locations across our park and open space system. We'll be mapping that and monitoring it to see if they're successful or not. Additionally, we have bluebird houses at multiple locations within our park system, and we want to make sure that we get mapping of those done as well as maintaining them and make sure that they can be as successful as possible as well. So kind of dabbling in a lot of different areas here, but we want to try to really establish our presence from a natural resource standpoint. And finally, I talked about a lot of different areas here, so I thought, it might be just best to give you a real quick representation of all the areas that we're working from a natural resource standpoint in 2014. So each dot represents a location that may be one or more projects that we've gone out there either through prescribed burn, or we'll be doing a rain garden, or working on prairie construction, just to give you a flavor of all the areas across the city we're working. So there's not just one location that we're hitting, but multiple different locations. I'd be happy to take any questions that you might have.
Great presentation. Thank you so much. Questions for Rich? We covered a lot of material, so looks like a very exciting year.
Yes, we're staying very busy. Thanks.
Do I have a motion to receive and file Richard's report on the natural resource inventory?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Let's go back to the director's report then.
We'll have Richard come back up. As part of our state association, the Iowa Park and Recreation Association, that we belong to as professional staff members, they have an annual conference every year across the state. A few of you remember last year, we hosted here in Des Moines. Our team put on the conference and brought all the fellow colleagues from other city park and recreation agencies to Des Moines. This year it was held in Cedar Rapids. As part of that process, we do have an awards banquet. We've won a few awards ourselves, but we also have an opportunity to put up great partners in our system who's been helping us, whether you're just a great advocate, you're a great volunteer, or a combination of a lot of things. And today, we're here to tell you that we won, and we want to release that publicly today. So I'll let Richard, since he did the nomination, do the good news.
All right. Like Ben said, we work with a lot of groups, a lot of people that kind of toil behind the scenes to help make our Park and Recreation Department what it is and what makes our system the way it is. And we had an opportunity to apply for the Central Iowa Trail Association to be the lay organization of the year for the Iowa Park and Recreation Association. Just to give you an idea of what the lay organization of the year is, it's a group that recognizes lay people outside of our profession who have supported the strengthening of programs and resources of leisure services. This is achieved through outstanding contributions to parks, recreation, and conservation movement within their community, area, county, or state. And there's 4 of them here tonight, but there's a band of, I don't even know how many members you have, but probably hundreds of dedicated mountain bikers in central Iowa that for a lot of years have kind of toiled behind the scenes. They like to ride, they like to build trail, but that's really about it. So we said we kind of had to recognize them a little bit. So we applied for that and really had an opportunity to tell people what we thought of them. And so I'm going to just briefly read from the award nomination that we put together. Since 1996, this volunteer-driven organization has played a central role in the development of sustainable, multi-use soft surface nature trails. CETA works closely with many public agencies like the City of Des Moines Parks and Recreation Department, the Polk County Conservation Board, the Iowa Department of Natural Resources, Des Moines Water Works, and others in central Iowa to develop high-quality, non-erosive nature trails. They've donated their time, money, and expertise to help construct and maintain approximately 50 miles of trails in Des Moines Greenwood, Ashworth, Ewing, and Waterworks Parks, along with trails along the Des Moines River, south of Saylorville Lake, and at Banner Lakes, at Summer State Park, and other locations in central Iowa. They also educate land managers and trail users about sustainable trail design, maintenance techniques, and usage. These trails wind through wooded areas by lakes and streams, up and down hills. They are loved by thousands of mountain bicyclists, hikers, bird watchers, runners, and other adults and children needing a respite from the urban life and wanting to immerse themselves in nature. These opportunities would not be as abundant without CETA's passion, dedication, and countless hours of volunteerism. CETA helps make Des Moines and central Iowa a great place to live by bringing people closer to nature, nurturing a respect for the environment, and providing a fun way to lead healthier lives. So we are very, very happy that they were awarded the 2014 Lay Organization of the Year by the Iowa Park and Recreation Association. So, this is an opportunity for us to thank them for all the work they do and get them out of the dirt for a little while, which I'm sure they'll all be headed out there after we get done here. So,
Did you
with
have to
that.
say anything? Do you have a speaker, or do you just? Come on up if you do.
Also, I'll just pass around the award so you can see the nice plaque that they got.
My name is Brian Sheasley. I live at, do I have to get the address?
Sure.
4201 Southeast 24th Street, Des Moines. And I'm the president of CETA, and we would just like to thank Richard and Ben for nominating for the award. We kind of view that having those trails and that recreation opportunity is sort of its own award, but it's also nice to be recognized, and we really appreciate the opportunities to work together with the Parks Board. We've found them to be a great partner as well, and what you're seeing out at Ewing Park and some changes, improvements that are coming to Greenwood Park are going to be a real demonstration of that, I think. So there's about 120 members.
Congratulations on your award, and
Thank
thank
you.
you for all that you do. We really do appreciate it so much.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Thanks for coming tonight, too.
And just a couple of pictures that were part of their award nomination. There's a lot of people that get out, work on a weekend basis. They also engage in different volunteer activities to get kids out there. And we want to thank Nick for making the trip to Cedar Rapids. He drove all the way over just to pick up the plaque and enjoy the evening, so we really appreciate him doing that. And that would be it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can we, are the rest of these folks part of this, are part of the group? Maybe we should introduce them.
Yeah.
Can you introduce
You guys
them,
wanna come up and introduce yourself?
Chairman? Because they certainly, with those hours, need to be recognized.
Absolutely.
I'm Nick Ludwig. I live on 38th Street, right over in North of Grand.
I'm Mary Bowles, and I live in Adel, Iowa.
Cheryl Drawley, Urbandale, Iowa, and I'm new to the board this year, and I think we have 12 on the board, 11 on the board. It's kind of a good opportunity, and it's proven to be fun. So.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks, Richard.
All right, your Did You Know is by Matt South tonight on Ashworth Pool. Ashworth Pool has quite the story, so I'll let him tell it.
Back to the trails?
It's doing it again.
Chair Nolan, members of the Park and Recreation Board, Matt Salvatore, Recreation Manager. This month's Did You Know is on Ashworth Memorial Pool. Ashworth Memorial Pool is located on 65 acres of land at 101 Southwest 45th Street. The pool is south of the Des Moines Arts Center in Greenwood Park and shares a parking lot with the Bill Riley Trailhead. The Ashworth family arrived in Iowa from England in 1851. They settled near Walnut Creek, just west of 63rd Street, which has since been renamed Ashworth Road. James and Charles were land developers, businessmen, and bankers. Shortly after James' death in 1924, his brother Charles donated a portion of land to the city of Des Moines for Ashworth Park and Ashworth Pool. Ashworth Pool was opened to the public on August 28, 1926. It featured a diving board, a sand deck, and gas lamps. It closed on August 28, 1982 with the passing of a bond issue allowing for reconstruction. The new pool, Ashworth as we know it today, was opened during the summer of 1984. It's the oldest pool in the state of Iowa that's operated by a local government. The first Learn to Swim program in the nation that was co-sponsored by a government agency and American Red Cross was held at Ashworth. Ashworth Memorial Swimming Pool has a concession stand and food area, a baby pool that's adjacent to the main pool with water depth between 1 and 2.5 feet, a 50-meter lap pool with 8 lanes ranging from depth of 4 to 8 feet. Birdland is the only other 50-meter pool in Des Moines and surrounding communities. It has a diving well with 2 1-meter and 1 3-meter diving boards. The diving well is 13 feet deep. There's also 2 water basketball hoops, a shade structure, and lounge chairs. The Central Iowa Aquatic Swim Team, the Des Moines Water Polo Club, and the Aquamaid Synchronized Swim Team all practice at Ashworth. The Park and Recreation Department continues to offer American Red Cross Learn to Swim lessons there every summer. The mural that you see here was designed and built sometime after 1926, is the only part of the original pool still standing. There were 6 terms and conditions of the land gift. The third condition of the gift referred to the swimming pool and stated that the commemorative feature be a part of the swimming pool that referred to the gift of land from James T. and Charles H. Ashworth. The condition also states that the design of the commemorative feature be approved and executed by a committee comprised of the following people: J.N. Darling, James B. Weaver, L.A. Lester, and W.H. Gavin. The mural carved by Christian Peterson is a covered wagon crossing a prairie and reads, Ashworth Park, the gift of Charles and James T. Ashworth to the people of Des Moines, December 4, 1924. Overland from New Hampshire, they came in 1851. Here on the neighboring prairies, respected and loved, they lived to witness the transformation of primitive land into a rich and powerful commonwealth. In commemoration of those pioneer days, they have dedicated this piece of virgin land to the people as a playground forever. To their memory, this pool is erected as a monument by the city of Des Moines. The Ashworth family is interred at Woodland Cemetery. These are pictures of the tombs for Charles, James, and the Ashworth family. These are pictures of patrons and lifeguards at Ashworth Memorial Pool in 1926 and 2013. The fountain is one of the 1926 photos. It was not only a pretty water feature at the pool, but it was also the main drain for the pool for the original pool. And that is the presentation. Any questions about Ashworth Memorial Pool?
Very good.
Thank you, Matt.
Next up is, I think, very interesting for you. A lot of the times the board doesn't get to see everything that goes to council. You don't act on agreements and contracts. That's the city council's role. And over the last several years, we've experienced some severe budget reductions, as we all know. And I often get, have you ever thought about partnering with the school? So not only have we thought about it, I think we're pretty good at it, and the school's actually a great partner as well. So I thought I would just highlight the agreements for you. And as of last night, the city council just renewed this agreement. You'll see that it's a really good relationship we have with the Des Moines School District.
Chair Nolan, members of Park and Recreation Board, I'm Brian Becker, Park and Recreation Superintendent. And I'm here tonight to talk about a great partnership with the Des Moines School District through our shared use agreement. The shared use agreement is a combination of many 28 e-agreements dating as far back as 1993, when the city provided funding for playground equipment at Harding Middle School. Through this agreement, the Park and Recreation Department receives access to school district facilities and other services. During the next few slides, I'll highlight additional benefits both organizations receive through this agreement. Through the shared use agreement, the school district security division has agreed to include the city park and recreation facilities on their patrols. If security staff sees activities in a closed facility, they will investigate and call the Des Moines Police Department if needed. The school district provides $100,000 annually to our summer wading pool program. They also provide breakfast and lunches at 7 of our highest attended wading pools. The school district has access to many of the city marquee facilities, such as the James County Soccer Complex, our tennis courts for tournaments, Ewing Park for cross-country meets, and Grays Lake for sailing and canoe classes. Pass and Play is a student incentive-based program on attendance and GPA. Students meeting the program's requirements receive free passes to city recreation facilities. In 2013, over 3,000 students qualified for this program. In addition to this program, we collaborated on winter lifeguard training classes, resulting in city hiring students as summer lifeguards. Department staff also attended 2 school district job fairs this month, helping fill our seasonal employment needs. Lastly, I'd like to highlight both organizations' field use permit system, which allows the public to reserve open space for recreational use in our city parks and school facilities. Activities include Easter egg hunt, National Night Out, youth soccer, softball, and football practices. So to conclude, as you can see, not only does this benefit the school district and the Park and Recreation Department, but the community as a whole.
Are there any questions for Brian or any comments?
You know, I'd like to say something. I want to congratulate Connie Boson and Ben, because Connie has been an intricate part of Parks and Recreation and the school board working together, and I think that is just a complete betterment for our community, so I want to thank you.
Thank you, George, and we appreciate the cooperation with the Pass and Play and all the other aspects that we can do to reward the kids and offer the community. The land is there and the facilities are there, so it's a great partnership.
Connie's being very modest that she actually brought Pass and Play to the city, I don't know how many years ago, but, and
George,
George together, both of them. And we've continued that program on and made some modifications, but it's a great incentive, as you can imagine, to keep kids in school and to keep them progressing through good standards, so.
And it's really good only for like 8th grade through 12th grade, is to have positive activities. And with that coupon book, they get discounts for Adventureland, Sleepy Hollow. They had a restaurant gave them a discount, the Drake Diner. So that's what we call a Pass and Play coupon book. So it's a great way to reward and encourage good attendance and good grades.
If you'd pass the word back to your facilities manager, Bill Good, I don't have his title right, but Bill is excellent to work with. He's our first and always contact, and he's just tremendous to work with.
Yeah, I know that he does a great job and is very complimentary of your group too and what you do for him. So we appreciate the cooperation. My sidebar of and that's why I'm here. I'm the representative of the school board.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Connie.
Last, we have a little bit of a theme here tonight, just kind of maybe doing a little bit of education or re-education on some of these long-term agreements we have. I have Julie Hempel coming to the stand with Ron Ward, our parks manager. They do a great job of maintaining downtown spaces, but you probably won't, or probably never knew how complicated this is and how many different exchanges and how we finance this. It's quite the story to tell. In fact, it's a model around the United States. We get calls almost all growing season long about, can you share your contract and how you finance this? So very interesting. I'll let them tell the story as well.
Chair Nolan, members of the Park and Recreation Board, Ron Ward, Park Manager, and this is Julie Hempel, Horticulture Inspector. We wanted to give you a brief overview of what the downtown maintenance agreement involves. and we'll explain what is a SHMID, map of the area, the history, who we partner with on this, funding, who's responsible for what, and a couple other items. What is a SHMID? A self-supporting municipal improvement district is an area that is subject to an additional tax initiated by the property owners to fund improvements or to provide additional service and maintenance for the area. A SHMID must be comprised only of the property that is zoned for commercial or industrial uses or properties within a designated historic district. They are generally made up of properties that have similar present or future use, physical location, or condition that would benefit from additional taxation. This is a map of the downtown SHMID and the areas that are covered. The yellow highlighted areas on the map are the boundaries of the SHMID. Areas highlighted in green are public areas where the SHMID pays for the maintenance. These include the East Locust Streetscape, Martin Luther King Jr. Parkway East and West, Western Gateway Park, excluding the interior of the Papa John Sculpture Park, and Principal Riverwalk. The red dots are separate maintenance agreements, and the red line is Martin Luther King Jr. Parkway North-South, which is maintained by the Park Department. In 2007, the City Council adopted a series of goal statements. Two directly relate to the downtown SHMID, and these are: the city will set the standard for constructing and maintaining our world-class city and generate civic pride, and also downtown Des Moines will be a 24/7 city within a city. The partners we work with on the downtown agreement are listed there, and in 2005 the City of Des Moines partnered with Operation Downtown and Riverfront Development Authority to create an agreement to increase the beautification effort in the downtown using SHMID funds. Operation Downtown is funded by downtown property owners through the downtown SHMID. Their budget totals a little over $2 million annually, and Operation Downtown is managed by the Downtown Community Alliance. The Downtown Community Alliance is one of the 4 pillars of the Greater Des Moines Partnership, and Riverfront Development Authority is part of Principal Financial. Working diligently starting in 2005, the city has worked with these partners to create and update the maintenance agreement. You can see it's been renewed several times, and each time it's renewed, we sit down with them and go through and see if anything needs to be changed or updated. Julie.
Okay, Operation Downtown is responsible for managing the SHMID funds. For the last 8 years, the extra monies collected in the budget have been saved to prepare for when the RDA funding commitment ends. As you can see, annually the City of Des Moines provides $250,000. Principal has been providing $250,000, and their agreement was to do this for 10 years. This will end in 2015. And Operation Downtown provides the rest with the SHMID funds. I'm not going to go over this document. This was provided for you in your packet. So you should have a copy, but this is just to show you that the staff worked a lot of hours and went through a lot of examples of who takes care of what in this downtown SHMID area. So we have this designated, and we've worked with the Operation Downtown and the other groups to see who is responsible for what. Since 2006, City Parks and Recreation Department has been managing the ornamental plantings in the downtown SHMID area. Ron already talked about that, but that would be East Locust Streetscape, MLK, Western Gateway, and Principal Riverwalk. The city was awarded this bid through a competitive bid process. In 2013, when the work came up for renewal, Operation Downtown awarded the plant maintenance bid to Perfect Cut. The plant maintenance bid included $140,000 for staffing that we paid for with a temporary agency. This amount will be given to Operation Downtown as cash. The rest of the $250,000 commitment, or $110,000, will be provided as in-kind from park staff in the city. A new committee of city staff, Operation Downtown, and RDA representatives will be formed to create a new agreement. This agreement will look to find ways to replace the $250,000 of funding that has been provided by RDA for the last 10 years. The Schmidt has been collecting the taxes and saving them in a reserve fund. This fund will be expended, though, by FY 2016, and there will be a shortfall of funding. This new agreement will address that shortfall. So I know this has been a very exciting and probably confusing presentation with our acronyms, but we were just wondering if we can entertain any questions.
So you see, we have a very large challenge in front of us, and all of our challenges start and end with money. The money, not only from principal's commitment, is running out, and they've let us know that they're not going to renew that commitment. So we start off in 16 with a $250,000 shortfall, as well as the surpluses that weren't needed because the money from the Schmidt was collected, the downtown extra tax was collected and held because at the time in 2006, the Riverwalk wasn't fully implemented. All the things weren't built out. Now we're built out. And we can make that money last than what we saved all those other years behind the scenes until 2016. So a group of us are working together from Operation Downtown, DCA, as well as the city to come up with a plan. And the plan will be either a hybrid of a few things. It could be, the city just has to simply find some money if they want to keep this going. DCA needs to find another source of money, and the Schmidt needs to increase. Or you have to start to decrease the service level downtown. Does that mean less flowers? Does it mean less cleaning? Who knows what the answer is yet, but this committee is going to work for the city council and bring back a little bit of a menu of options of what we can do to solve this, because it was always our intentions to have a beautiful space, but also knowing that we wouldn't have built it out like this as a city because we couldn't afford to have this facility without the different partners coming to the table to help finance it. I have to thank Julie. She's been on this for a long time. She's the one that you've seen. She's responsible for the flowers downtown for all the years up until now. And we forget to mention Ann, because she's always behind us over here, but all these agreements you've seen with the school and downtown maintenance, Ann just does amazing work, and she's here late hours, and she always has the best interest for the city. So Ann, thanks for all the hard work you put in for us, too.
Any other questions for Ron or Julie? Thank you both.
Thanks. I look forward to seeing everyone on Friday at Earth Day Trash.
Shameless plugs are good.
I'll follow up with Julie because I want to thank everyone for your participation in Trash Bash. We're going to have a really nice turnout, and I look forward to seeing you all on Friday. So hope the weather's great. Any other questions for Ben about anything? Well, let's move on for board action. I do have a nominating committee. Susan Keeney Vanderhaar, Paula Feltner, and Jeff Clubb have agreed to be on the nominating committee, and so they'll be working together, and we'll hopefully have a slate of officers for the May meeting. So, do I have a motion to accept this nominating committee?
So moved.
I'll second.
Rebecca, would you call the roll?
Nolan.
Yes?
Ogle.
Yes.
Clubb.
Yes.
Pacto.
Yes.
Kenny Vanderhaar.
Yes.
Davis.
Yes.
Passick.
Yes.
Hanza.
Yes.
Thornton.
Yes.
Rogers.
Yes.
Bozen.
Yes.
Thank you. A couple of things in your packet. There was an announcement about the May 16th City Council and bus tour. Make sure you get that on your calendar. We'd like to have a great turnout for that as well. And just following up off of Richard's national inventory, tonight on IPBN TV at 8 o'clock, there's Aldous Leopold's A Fierce Green Fire film. If you haven't seen it, it's just marvelous. So if you're not doing anything at 8 o'clock tonight, it's a wonderful story about his life and what he has done for the environment. So. Does anyone else have any other comments or thoughts? Okay. Do I have a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I'll see you on Friday.
When is that?